What's going on? Welcome to Asian Cosell. So I got one here by Nate the lawyer, and he's gonna discuss the WNBA and NBA wage gap, and of course the shocking numbers revealed. But to ones that follow NBA, WNBA, yeah, we're not surprised with this, and a lot of the bantering of all the WNBA players, a majority of them, like how much revenue. So let's get into it.
The WNBA is estimated to bring in $200 million in revenue. Just for comparison, the NBA is expected to earn $13 billion. The WNBA has historically lost around $10 million per season.
Some estimates have said the league is going to lose about $50 million.
The WNBA attendance, not good. The WNBA ratings, not good. The WNBA salaries, not good. It's not working because you, the consumer, don't want it, and I'm never going to cover anything because I feel it's a movement.
That's taking away from what we should be talking about, which is equal pay. Here's the thing. This cannot be done. It is not on the oppressed to fix oppression. It has to be done with allyship, which is where someone like Draymond Green, a man, comes into a space that affects predominantly women. But the thing about being an ally is when you come into that space, you should be listening first, not talking first, because there is no one who understands better what these women are going through than these women. If you come into this space and say, okay, I'm going to listen, I'm going to take this feedback of what you've been living and what you've been experiencing, and then I'm going to then talk and then offer my ideas, perhaps even away from Twitter, because then it comes off like you're talking at somebody who's been going through something that's incredibly difficult for years and years and years, then maybe we can get to the point where women aren't making 80 cents to every dollar that a man makes. And by the way, that's white women.
I'm really tired of seeing them complain about the lack of pay because they're doing themselves a disservice by just complaining.
They're not just complaining.
Huh?
They're not just complaining, really.
But they are, because they're not laying out steps that they can take to change that. Because the people that can change it, they're just going to continue to say, well, the revenue isn't there.
Some new questions tonight about the future of the WNBA seasons and what will happen there, especially with one of the most popular players in the league now threatening the possibility of a strike. There's talks towards a collective bargaining agreement happening now between the Players Association and the league. And Chicago Sky forward Angel Reese says she wants in on those negotiations. Listen.
I gotta get in the meetings because I'm hearing they don't give us, if y'all don't give us what we want, we said no.
So in this video, we're going to be talking about the WNBA versus the NBA wage gap. We're going to talk about what the wage gap is, how much money each league actually brings in, and the arguments for equal pay on both sides. And at the end of the video, you get to make the decision. Who do you believe has the best argument?
Yep.
All right, so before we start with the numbers, let's get into how the WNBA came to be.
In 1996, the NBA and its then commissioner David Stern launched a women's league, the WNBA. The men's league was going through a huge boom with Michael Jordan at the helm, and a women's league played in the summertime would provide a full year of basketball and would also help grow the sport internationally. The NBA and its owners would own the WNBA.
It survived because of the great support the NBA has given it over many years. So there's a reason why the WNBA is the longest tenured women's professional sports league in the country. Think about this, by double any other.
WNBA team owners received 50% stake in 2002. In 2022, the league raised $75 million from a group of investors, the league's first ever outside investment and the largest in women's sports history. They received 16% stake in return, leaving only 42% left for WNBA and its owners. But this also means only 42% of national-level revenue, like TV and sponsorship deals, trickles down to the WNBA owners. The remaining goes to the NBA and its owners, 5 of which are also WNBA owners, and the outside investor group. The current TV deal is worth about $60 million in 2024. Only about $2 million of that goes to each team.
Now, I know there were a lot of numbers thrown at you, but let's break this down pretty simply. All right, so to understand this issue, you have to understand how both the NBA and the WNBA distribute its money.
And of course, the same argument, WNBA loses 10 million a year. The NBA subsidizes WNBA. Or even with the emergence of Caitlin Clark, as I'm sorry to beat this down like a broken record. Caitlin Clark, even if Indiana Fever has packed arenas, they still fell 40 to 50 million in the hole this season. So what's going on? Well, guess what? As the shocker number revealed, the audience is mostly watching the NBA and Caitlin Clark, but majority, we're not watching the other games. We're going to watch maybe the 44 games that the Fever will be part of, and then we'll see if they go to the playoffs, which they should with this team. But let's continue.
Let's start with the NBA. For the NBA, you have the owners and you have the players, and they take 50% of basketball-related revenue. Now, in 2023, that revenue was $10.5 billion, and they've had an agreement since 1983 that they would share revenue 50-50. Now, our next step is to go to basketballreference.com. They list every NBA contract for the 2023-2024 season, and there were 496 contracts, as you can see on the screen. Now, if you just add up the money for the 2024-2025 season to see how much the players get paid, it should be around $5 billion. And I did the math. It's exactly $490,614. That's how much the NBA paid the players. So the NBA was simple, players and owners. But the WNBA gets really, really complicated. First, you got the WNBA players, they get a percentage. Then you have the WNBA owners. They also get a percentage. Along with that, you have the NBA owners who also get a percentage of WNBA revenue because they put in between 250 to 300 million to keep the league going this long. And you have the outside investment group who spent $75 million to get 16% of basketball related revenue. So these are the people who must get paid by the WNBA if it ever generates any revenue. And this is how the percentages are broken down. The WNBA players and owners take 42% of basketball related revenue. The NBA, who put in that $250 $300 million, they get 42% of basketball related revenue. And those investors who put in $75 million, they get 16% of basketball related revenue. Now, if you split it out, it turns out that the players for the WNBA can only really get a max of 21% of basketball related revenue. And remember, that's in contrast to the NBA players who get 50% of basketball related revenue. So let's say the WNBA made $10 billion like the NBA. How would that look? Well, in that case, the players would get $2.1 billion. Now remember, the men were getting $5 billion, but the women would only get $2.1 billion, $3 billion less than the men because of how everyone has to be paid. The owners for the WNBA would get $2.1 billion. The NBA would get $4.2 billion, but that's because they invested almost $1/3 billion into the league. And then that private investor group would also get $1.6 billion. So bottom line, in terms of percentage of revenue, the most the WNBA players can make is about 21 to 22%, while the NBA players make 50%. Now, this leads us into our first argument by WNBA players and their advocates that they should get about 50% of basketball-related revenue.
What's being lost in all that noise is the actual point. So let's unpack what the WNBA wage conversation is about. No, they don't want Steph Curry money. Well, they don't not want Steph Curry money, but that's just because Steph could pay the salary of every woman in the WNBA and still have enough left over to sign Le'Veon Bell. Anyone can make the argument that a younger, smaller, less popular league can't pay the same amount as the NBA. What's harder is arguing they can't pay the same percentage, which is.
And here's the thing: the NBA plays 82 games a year. Now the WNBA plays 44 games. So, how can we even equal that up, even if, the money's there, but the money isn't there because the audience is not watching the WNBA. The audience is watching mostly the NBA and Caitlin Clark, which is still, again, 50 million in the hole.
What WNBA players are trying to tell you.
They recognize the difference in how much money each league brings in, but they do want a higher percentage of their league's revenue. Remember, NBA players get about 50% of what the league calls basketball-related income. A Forbes report last year estimated that WNBA players only get about 25% of BRI.
Well, Rachel, 25% is actually saying it too nice. It's actually closer to around 22%.
Yeah, like, and the big conversation about WNBA salaries and all of that that's been going on. What is like from a player and from players in general, like your teammates, what is that opinion and how do you guys handle all those conversations?
We are not asking to get paid what the men get paid. We're asking to get paid the same percentage of revenue shared.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Got it. So that's a huge misconception.
That's a huge misconception.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah, because
Okay, but then you're still gonna complain. I'm sorry. A league with a bunch of a lot of the women in there with not just complaining about salary, about the other things you guys do with the social activism, this LGBTQ push, and then all this other stuff. And then you wanna get all this money. You want us the men or the women to pay attention, mostly the men. And yeah, we do want you guys to get what you're worth, but we're not there. The butts are not in the seats.
every video is like, oh, this person gets paid this person gets paid that, right?
So I want to be really clear about that. Like, I don't think I should get paid the same as LeBron.
Right.
But the percentage of revenue, like,
And now you know why the WNBA can't get paid the same percentage as the men, which is 50%, because all of these stakeholders are involved. It's not just the players and the owners, it's the players, the owners, the NBA investors who put 250 to 300 million into the league, and the outside investors who pumped in $75 million to the league. All those people get a cut of the revenue. And as you can clearly see, the argument for a larger percentage of revenue is one that is ignorant at best, because based on the way the league is set up, the most they can get is 21%, unless the owners or the NBA or those outside investors give up some of their equity. Now, one thing you will not hear a lot is that the WNBA has never turned a profit. It's always had a deficit. So what do I mean by that? Well, let me define some terms for you. First, I'm talking about revenue. Now, revenue is the amount of money a business generates. Then you have expenses, the cost incurred to run that business, rent, salaries, hiring people, that type of stuff. Then you have profit, which is essentially your revenue, the money you brought in, minus their expenses, the money you had to spend to generate that revenue. Now, if expenses are higher than revenue, you have a deficit. If revenue is higher than expenses, then you have profit. So this chart shows you the 2023 finances for the NBA and the WNBA side by side. As you can see here at the top, the NBA generated $10.58 billion in revenue, while the women's game only generated $200 million in revenue. But when you take into account expenses for the women's game, that revenue number actually drops to $40 million in the hole. In 2023, the female game lost $40 million.
Jeez,
and remember, this was the WNBA's best season ever, and they still lost $40 million. Now, to be absolutely fair, they were projected to lose $50 million. So $40 million is actually a win. Now, on the plus side, the WNBA just signed a new TV rights deal for $2.2 billion over 11 years. So it comes out to about $200 million a year.
The WNBA reportedly securing a new round of media rights deals with NBC, Amazon, and Disney, the parent company of ABC, worth about $2.2 billion over 11 years, about $200 million a year. This new media package, a massive increase, 6 times bigger than its previous deal.
Now, with this $200 million a year, it should allow the WNBA to be profitable for the first time in its history. So out of that $200 million TV deal, the players are going to see about $42 million of that money. The owners get another $42 million, the NBA gets its $84 million, and the investors get their $32 million, and that's each year. Now, think about this. The WNBA players right now only get about $16 million a year in salaries combined. All WNBA salaries, when you add them all up, comes out to about $16 million. So now they're going to have another $42 million on top of that they can dole out to the players. So based on the numbers and the structure of the league, the WNBA players should be able to get more money with this next round of collective bargaining. Now, they won't be able to get the same percentage of revenue as the men are getting because, again, the structure of the league, but they are well on their way to getting more money. As always, tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. Tell me, hey, Nate, I think they should be paid just the same as the NBA players, full stop. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the pay structure. I don't care about any of this stuff. They should get the same amount. I'm going to disagree with you. because unfortunately, whenever it comes to businesses and business practices, you can only pay out what you make in. And if you're not bringing any money in, I can't pay any money out. That's just the name of the game. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube.
Yep. Shout out to Nate the lawyer. Yeah. Well, the thing is, yeah, this is the reality. Again and again and again. There's no butts in the seats. And even if, you guys going to get a little bit more money with this new WNBA TV rights deal for $200 million a year. And then, of course, you're threatening to sit out. And I'm like, well, you can't really. You're going to really go poor, or you're going to have to go play overseas. And, during the summer, who's playing? How many leagues are going overseas? Because most of the other leagues are playing during the men's season. Just to say. But yeah. All right. So if any of you enjoyed any of this content, please give me the HKL special. Help the king out. Hit the like, subscribe, and comment. And wherever you are, stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video.